All right, guys, next up, we are going to look at some structure. So per the PDF file here, you see that we have these beams that are kind of jutting through our architecture. Yeah, they're quite fancy. So we're going to get those incorporated into our project. You'll find that this is, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Yeah. I think you guys will find that structure is actually remarkably easy, but there are some fundamentals that are a little bit more difficult, I think, for us to grasp on the architecture side of our profession. Anyway, let's jump into dropping in let's drop in our first structural element. So let's go to the roof plan view. And we're going to do this ridge beam that's going directly down the center of our building. We'll do that first. It's relatively easy to do something like that. All right, so go to the Structure tab and go to the Beam function. If you need to save, save. Thank you, Revit, for reminding me. Okay, so what you guys are going to notice when you look over here in, oh, wow, look at that. My screen is cut off. Sorry, guys. If that happens in the future, let me know. I'll readjust and get it going for you. Anyway, so what you'll notice is that the families, there's only one family loaded. That's kind of just the Revit architectural template default. But we can load more. We can go to Load Family. Scroll down to Structural Framing. The way the structural framing families are going to be organized is by material. So what you're looking at here is almost undoubtedly a wood beam. So like a glue lam or something like that. I'm going to pretend that it's a glue lam, I think. So just because it's really hard to get nominal lumber that's just like an actual good architectural grade wood anymore. So yeah, let's go with the glue lam. So let's go with glue lam Western Species, and we're going to hit open. This is where we're going to select what size that beam actually is. I struggled to find where the actual size of that beam is called out, but we can kind of take a guesstimate. Right now it just says ridge beam. I don't know if this is calibrated right now. Let's do a quick calibration. I'm going to use measure, calibrate. We're going to say, okay, we're going to go from here to there, and that's 25 feet. So our beam is 1 foot by 5 inches, so 5 by 12. What's that?
What kind of glue gun?
Glue lam, Western Species. So anyway, guys, so the size beam we want is a 5 by 12, and so you just scroll down this list to find the 5 by 12. We're going to have to go a little bit. So 5.125, that's 5 1/8, by 12, right there. Boom. Hit OK. All right, so an important thing for you guys to all understand is when you're drawing an element in a view, it inserts that element into that view relative to that level. So since I drew it on the roof plan level, it's going to draw, as long as I don't change any of my the offset values and stuff over here in the properties, it's going to draw it exactly in plane with the roof level. So let me just kind of draw it across the space like that. It's going to come in looking like a line. And that's because structural elements in Revit are analytical components. So if you want to see the thickness of that beam, you need to change the detail level to medium or fine. Okay, that's step number 1. So anyway, so that beam now, it actually inserted into our project at some weird location that I didn't predict. And that's because, and I'm just going to illustrate this to you real quick by going to the south elevation. Let's see, fine. So that's because it is exactly aligned with the that level, right? This is our roof level. So when I placed it in the view, it placed right there. So another challenge with structural families that is a little bit different than what we would hope it would work like is that structural families are a little bit finicky to move around in space. If I'm trying to pull it to this corner, right, where we want it, it kind of sticks to that level. I can try unconstraining it, and you see it still sticks to that level. There's arguably a good reason for that. You might argue that it's not a good reason, but basically structural elements are purely analytical, so you can't just move them around in space. You have to very intentionally say, I need it to be at exactly this position. So, so anyway, what we need to do is measure the distance from this level to, I believe it's this point. And let me pick something that doesn't, I want to just double check something to make sure this dimension doesn't round it. It doesn't. Okay, so that's exactly 3'3". All right. So since we're measuring to that point, what we've got to do is move our beam 3 feet 3 inches up. We can do that a few different ways. We can create a ridge beam level if we want to, and set it at that height, or we can change the. Let's see, it's not the extension. Start level offset and the end level offset. Okay, so that's these figures right there. We just need to change those values to 3'3". But real quick, let me just point out to you, if you put 3'3" on one of them and you don't put it on the other, what you wind up with is a beam that kind of tilts, right? Because what that's saying is at one side, it's 3'3" higher than the roof level, and on the other side, it's exactly at the roof level. Does that make sense? So that value, if you want it to be level, needs to be the same on both sides, and that will level it out. You can use the move command and kind of push it over into place like that. And then lastly, we are responsible for, in the roof plan view, making sure that these extensions only go so far. So if you pull the grip back to about yay far, you can put a dimension on it and just make sure that it's only a foot. So we'll go there and we're going to pick this and say 1 foot. And then we'll do another dimension on this side. There to there, 1 foot. Okay, so I just double check that. I don't need to know the exact dimension anymore after that. All right, so there's our beam. Any questions so far? None. Okay, cool. So how do I make another one?
Just go to Vim and they already have another one.
Yeah, you can copy these.
Copy it.
Yeah, you can copy these, and then you just need to change your elevation value. So I think if I look at the, yeah, so these are going to be aligned to the grid at the outside face, so that makes it relatively easy. I can just hit copy, and I'm going to go from here to here. And then what you need to check, guys, this is actually fairly critical. You actually kind of need to use your detail line here, because I just drew a detail line across the top, because the way that I need to sort of clip out the corner of this thing is basically I need to take this point. Okay, this is critical. I need everybody's eyes on screen right now. All right. If you look at where that beam is, notice how it actually sort of notches out the joist. So the way I'm moving it into place is I actually just drew a detail line. I'm going to go from this point. I'm going to pull it down to here. Right. So that's where my notch is going to begin. And then I measure the distance from here to there. Unfortunately, it's kind of a pain in the ass, little small dimension. I wonder if a line will work here. Hey, it worked. Okay, cool. So anyway, yeah, so it's really weird because you can't just move these things up and down, but I guess you can use a line. Yeah, right. Yours moved? I wonder why mine was locked. Okay, so now you can just copy this to the other side and you're good to go. So copy, I'm going to go from here to this grid line, and it should, whoops, I'm a little misaligned. From there to there, it should create that little corner just like you want it to be. Okay? So any other questions? Fairly simple, right?